At the airport, a confused student named Lu Mingfei tries to ask someone how to get to the CC subway station. Because of a ridiculous misunderstanding, someone thinks he is a beggar and tells him to contact his embassy for help instead. Annoyed and embarrassed, Mingfei blames it all on a woman who previously gave him the wrong directions about a subway station in the airport. When he tries to spend his last bit of money on a burger, the restaurant staff also mistake him for a beggar and refuse to serve him. To make things even worse, real beggars start happily waving at him like he is one of them. Right then, a student named Finger von Frings walks up to him and casually asks if he can borrow money to buy a Coke. Thinking it is another scam, Mingfei refuses to give him anything. Everything changes when Finger notices Mingfei's school subway card. Excited, Finger quickly pulls out the exact same card, proving that they actually go to the same school. Mingfei is doubtful at first, but when he realizes it is real, he becomes incredibly relieved to finally meet another student, and Finger successfully manages to get the money from him. While they wait at the airport together, Finger explains that he is pretty famous at school, but only because he keeps failing his classes. He also explains their weird school transportation system. The train gives priority to high-ranking students, while students with low ranks might end up waiting forever. He mentions that their school is hidden deep in the mountains, so the special subway train is the only way in. Before Mingfei can ask more questions, Finger falls asleep, and Mingfei eventually decides to sleep as well. While napping, Mingfei has a disturbing dream where he sees crowds running in fear with torches and throwing themselves off a cliff. In the same dream, he finds himself back at the airport where a small boy appears, claiming to be his little brother and warning him that Earth is heading toward an apocalypse. When Mingfei tries to offer the boy money for food, the boy refuses and insults him, saying he is pathetic for staying kind even after so many years. Mingfei wakes up from this unsettling dream to see a strange-looking man approaching them. The man announces that their train is finally about to arrive. When Mingfei tells him his name, the man's attitude changes instantly. He becomes thrilled and reveals that Mingfei is actually an S-rank student, so important that the principal himself was supposed to welcome him. Finger joins in the excitement and explains that Mingfei has the same rank as the principal, and if he had just swiped his card earlier, the train would have shown up immediately. Mingfei feels annoyed, realizing that he wasted an entire day for nothing. When he finally swipes his card, the entire airport lights up, transforms around him, and reveals a hidden entrance to a subway station. As they head down, Finger is amazed and says this is exactly what he expects from an S-rank student. At the station, Mingfei panics when he sees zombie-like people, but Finger casually explains that they are just actors helping set the atmosphere. The dramatic scene reaches its peak when the train arrives and Professor Guderian jumps out enthusiastically to hug Lu Mingfei, saying they have been waiting for him. During the train ride to Castle College, Professor Guderian has Mingfei sign confidential documents. After sending Finger away, he reveals the school's real purpose, which is to teach students about dragons and how to slay them. Mingfei does not believe him and assumes the professor has lost his mind. Suddenly, Mingfei falls into another trance and meets the mysterious boy from his dream again. The boy confirms that dragons really exist and tells him a legendary story. He explains that thousands of years ago, the original dragon ancestor, Nidhogg, the Black Dragon Emperor, was killed on his throne. The warriors who defeated him placed his massive body on top of a frozen mountain. That moment marked the start of a new era, and people everywhere celebrated. When Mingfei asks if the boy has any personal connection to the dragon, the boy denies it. After Mingfei wakes up, a man named Masashi Toyama arrives to show solid proof that dragons are real. They show him a dragon scale to test its strength, but it still does not convince him, so they reveal their strongest proof, a baby dragon found in 1796 that has stayed dormant ever since. As Mingfei gets closer to the sleeping dragon, something incredible happens. The dragon suddenly wakes up and tries to smash out of its glass container before falling asleep again. The professor believes that Mingfei's bloodline is what triggered the dragon to react. He is relieved that they upgraded the dragon's container last year, because an escape would have been disastrous. When they finally arrive at Castle College, Professor Guderian offers to show Mingfei around and officially welcomes him to the school. As Mingfei walks through the campus, he is stunned by how huge and beautiful it is. While they walk, the professor explains that research shows many powerful dragons are sleeping all over China, which is why China is such an important focus at their academy. Mingfei notices that there are strangely no students around and asks why. The professor suddenly realizes what day it is and urgently tells Mingfei to hide. They had accidentally walked right into Liberty Day, a huge event where the Lionheart Society led by Chu Zihong battles the Student Union led by Caesar Gattuso in a giant war game. Chaos explodes as students rush out from everywhere, firing weapons and fighting intensely. In the middle of the battle, Professor Guderian gets shot and collapses. The fight becomes even more serious until only the two leaders and their snipers are left. While Chu Zihong and Caesar face off dramatically, a terrified Lu Mingfei gets confronted by Nono, the Student Union sniper. When Nono gets shot by the opposing sniper, something inside Mingfei breaks. He falls into another trance as the mysterious boy tells him to punish everyone for their sins. In a sudden burst of action, Mingfei grabs a rifle and shows unbelievable shooting skill, taking out the enemy sniper with a headshot and then shooting both Chu Zihong and Caesar with deadly precision. As Mingfei panics over what he just did, the school alarm begins to blare. Red Cross girls rush over and inject the fallen students with what looks like an antidote, instantly bringing them back to life. Professor Manstein shows up complaining about how expensive all of this is, and asks why a freshman like Mingfei is even involved in such a wild event. Lu Mingfei gets another scare when Professor Guderian suddenly wakes up right next to him. At first, Mingfei thinks he is seeing a ghost, but Guderian quickly assures him he is perfectly fine. To prove how the system works, Guderian explains that the bullets are filled with sedatives and fake blood, then casually shoots himself and drops unconscious again. As students all around the field start waking up, Professor Manstein threatens to report everything to the principal, and he actually follows through. Even though the group leaders insist they followed every rule, Manstein still complains, especially about how much it will cost to fix all the damage. However, things take an unexpected turn when the principal completely ignores Manstein's complaints, tells the students to keep having fun, and promises that the school will pay for everything. He even apologizes for missing the event and says he will join next time, which makes the students cheer in excitement. The principal then asks to speak to Lu Mingfei personally. He warmly welcomes Mingfei to the school and jokingly mentions how impressive it is that an S-rank student like him managed to take down 2 A-rank students on his first day, although he says he is not really surprised. Sensing danger, Professor Manstein urgently tells Mingfei to get back to his dorm as soon as possible. It becomes obvious why. The students from both sides are furious that their leaders lost, and Manstein worries they might try to take revenge. Meanwhile, in a private conversation, the principal talks with a man named Mons about a tragic incident from 8 years ago when many students died. The principal stresses how important it is to train students for real combat, while Mons argues that they need a true prodigy to lead them. They both agree that although Chu and Caesar are talented, Lu Mingfei might also be someone worth watching. The topic then shifts to an upcoming Hills operation, where Mons reports that Ye Xiang and Aki are ready for an underwater mission, but must move carefully so they do not accidentally wake a sleeping dragon. Back at the dorms, Lu Mingfei walks in and finds out that Finger von Frings is his roommate. Finger tells him that winning the competition has made him a target of both the Student Union and the Lionheart Society. He decides to help and takes Mingfei on a full tour of the school. During the tour, Finger shows him different departments and facilities, including an area focused on studying Yanling, a mysterious type of power. He also points out an important building where Professor Manstein's father lives, using his Yanling to maintain a protective barrier for the school. Finger explains that Yanling exists in many different forms and abilities. Their tour gets interrupted when a student loses control of his Yanling and accidentally creates a giant water monster. A teacher quickly steps in and stops it before anything bad happens, but the incident triggers another strange vision for Mingfei, where he finds himself looking at a half-withered tree. When Mingfei asks about the tree, Finger explains that it is the World Tree, the legendary place where the Black Emperor Dragon was defeated. He says it has become the symbol of Castle College. Their conversation is cut short when Professor Guderian suddenly shows up and urgently tells Mingfei to return to the dorm. Back at the dorm, Guderian gives Mingfei his student ID and informs him that all new students must take the 3E test, and failure means immediate expulsion. Even though he says he believes in Mingfei's abilities as an S-rank student, he stresses how important the test is. He then brings out an ancient music box with a unique history. It contains a recorded dragonic sound from centuries ago, belonging to the Black Dragon Emperor, and it is known as the Imperium Yanling. When Guderian plays it, expecting Mingfei to respond to it somehow, nothing dramatic happens. Instead, Mingfei simply falls asleep. This leads Guderian to suggest that Mingfei's human genes might be suppressing his dragon genes. Suddenly remembering something urgent, Guderian rushes off. Immediately after he leaves, Finger posts on the school's news network about Mingfei not reacting to the Imperium at all. Seeing how worried Mingfei is about the upcoming test, Finger offers to help him cheat so he does not fail the 3E test. Meanwhile, both Zhu Hong and Caesar see the news about Mingfei's failure to resonate with the Imperium, which only makes things more interesting. In the library, Professors Guderian and Manstein desperately search for answers about Mingfei's strange immunity to the Imperium. Their research leads them to a shocking possibility. Mingfei might be a descendant of the White Dragon Emperor who once fought Nidhogg, lost, and was supposedly buried along with all of his descendants. Manstein suggests doing deeper research on Mingfei, but Guderian refuses, not wanting his student turned into an experiment. They reach a deal. If Mingfei passes the 3E test, Manstein will keep everything secret. If he fails, they will report everything to higher authorities. That night, a mysterious person asks Norma, the school's AI, to secretly help ensure Mingfei passes the 3E test. The next day, Mingfei walks into the exam hall confidently, armed with the answers Finger gave him. The test starts with blank sheets and a promise of a soul-triggered vision from a recording. While the supervisors step outside, Toyama talks with Nono about her own 3E test, where she saw a vision of her mother dying. Inside the exam hall, most students stay relaxed, but Mingfei and a blonde girl take it seriously. As Mingfei writes his prepared answers, he slips into another trance and meets the mysterious boy again. This time, the boy tells him his name is Lu Ming's, the same name as Mingfei's cousin. Mingze explains that these visions show what is hidden in Mingfei's heart, says he is different from everyone else, and offers to carry his burdens for him. When Mingfei wakes up, Nono tells him that he slept through 2/3 of the exam, but luckily he had already written down his answers. She notices that he wrote 9 answers instead of the required 8, and although he cannot fix it, she reassures him that his responses show he has still passed the test. Back in the dorm, Finger congratulates Mingfei on passing and officially welcomes him. He then asks to see Mingfei's course selection list. Curious, he questions why Mingfei chose Professor Monce's alchemical mechanical design class and warns him that the professor is infamous for being brutal with students. Finger explains that the class was actually cancelled 2 weeks earlier because the professor went on a mission to search for an ancient dragon. Meanwhile, far away, Professor Mons leads an expedition team investigating the remains of a sunken city. Ye Sheng and Aki suit up and dive underwater. Deep below, they discover the city's ruins, and Ye Sheng decides to use his Void Snake Yanling ability to explore further. During their search, Mons warns them that a magnitude 5 earthquake is coming. Before they can get to safety, the tremors hit and their communication with Mons is cut off. Luckily, Ye Sheng manages to reconnect using his Void Snake ability and updates Mons on what is happening. Professor Mons contacts the principal and reports their discovery, explaining that they need a key to enter the city. He mentions that the city might actually be a Dragon King's palace. The principal authorizes him to retrieve the key, which turns out to be a baby with pure dragon blood from its mother. The mother hands over the baby, warning them that this child is their last hope as the final key. Mons then puts on his diving gear and jumps into the water. At the Bronze City's gate, he activates his Yanling to reveal the entrance and uses the baby to unlock it. After giving Ye Sheng and Aki instructions, he returns to the ship with the baby. On board, Professor Mons tells Norma to perform a full city scan and deliver reports. Ye Sheng notes that the city has dangerously low oxygen, so Mons stresses the importance of conserving air. They enter a chamber containing a huge bronze pillar. Before going deeper, Ye Sheng tells Aki that her safety comes first, even above saving him. While he steps away, Aki receives orders to photograph a statue and send it to the ship as Norma continues her analysis. Suddenly, the ship detects a security breach in the city, and Aki's heart rate spikes as she begins to pass out. Ye Sheng rushes back in time to revive her, revealing that he found a heavy artifact and suspects a sleeping baby dragon might be inside the city. He then spots a statue stalking Aki and shoots it. This attack, combined with her earlier contact, triggers the city's defense system, causing the entire structure to shift. They sprint through the transforming city, dodging moving walls and collapsing paths as they rush toward escape. Ye Sheng explains that Aki touching the statue activated the security system, and the baby dragon sensed intruders and initiated lockdown. Back at Castle College, an alarm sounds, calling all A rank and above students to assemble. Before leaving, Lu Mingfei slips into another trance and sees the little boy again. The boy warns him that danger is coming and someone may die, and he hints that Mingfei could use this to his advantage. He also gives Mingfei a secret code that can unlock all maps and hints that it will be very useful later. Finger wakes Mingfei and tells him they have been summoned. On the way to the hall, Nono tells Finger that only A-rank students are needed, so he sadly heads back to his room. Inside the hall, students sit at computers while a professor explains the situation. They learn that 2 teammates are trapped in an ancient city and need help navigating its internal structure. The students are asked to study an image of a statue for clues. Mingfei notices the blonde girl from the exam and realizes she is actually an A-rank student. The professors announce that Aki and Ye Sheng only have 20 minutes of oxygen left. Caesar Gattuso points out how impossible the task sounds, saying translating dragon language normally takes about 15 years, not 20 minutes. Even so, the professors urge everyone to try anyway. As everyone starts working, the professor nervously watches, desperately hoping for a breakthrough. At first, Mingfei is confused, but he sets up his computer while Norma helps him configure it into a familiar gaming interface. Remembering the cheat code from his dream, he enters it into the system. To everyone's shock, the code instantly solves the map. The decoded result is immediately sent to the ship to guide Ye Sheng and Aki out. Ye Sheng reports that using the map in their current situation is difficult, but they push on. They reach a calmer part of the underwater city, and Ye Sheng suggests showing the map to the baby. The infant examines it and reveals that their only escape route is downward through the city's base. Professor Mons checks their oxygen levels and feels relieved, believing that the remaining 3 minutes should barely be enough. Ye Sheng tells Aki to save her strength for the final escape, though he secretly realizes it might still not be enough. When Aki tries to confess her feelings, Ye Sheng stops her with a kiss and promises they will survive. Suddenly, Professor Mans discovers a serious mistake. They calculated oxygen only for escaping the ruins, not for the trip back to the surface. Realizing the danger, he orders a lifeboat launch and commands the ship to descend to rescue them. Back at the college, the entire hall is filled with tension as everyone waits desperately for news. Lu Mingfei gets a call from his friend who asks how life at his new school is going. Hearing how down Mingfei sounds, his friend encourages him to stay positive and tough no matter what happens. On the ship, Professor Man sends out a rescue team to find Ye Sheng and Aki. While they blame themselves for everything that went wrong, the rescuers suddenly spot something surfacing. Aki appears, carrying the artifact and revealing that Ye Sheng sacrificed himself so she could survive. Before Mons can reach her, an unknown creature drags Aki back underwater, and his assistant has to physically stop him from diving in after her. They watch the water churn violently before Aki's blood surfaces. A massive water dragon appears, revealing itself as the creature responsible, and it begins chasing the ship. Professor Mons fires several rifle shots at it, but nothing works. After wasting multiple rounds, they switch to dropping missiles into the water, only for the dragon to swallow them whole. A crew member informs Mans that the missiles are still live, and in frustration, Mans orders them to be detonated. A huge explosion erupts underwater, and for a moment the crew relaxes, thinking the threat is gone. As Mons' assistant regretfully says, it is a shame they could not capture the creature alive, the dragon suddenly resurfaces, impales her through the heart with one of its horns, and drags her into the water. In shock and rage, Mons empties his rifle into the sea. The creature, now fully revealed as a dragon, keeps chasing the ship while making strange noises. Mons translates for his crew, explaining that the dragon is actually mocking their useless attacks. When someone reminds him the live missiles are still inside the dragon, he warns them not to detonate them yet, saying the explosion would send scorching air back toward the ship, just like dragonfire. A crew member spots a nearby dam, and Mons orders the ship to race toward it at full speed. Their plan is to use the dam barrier as a shield before detonating the missiles. They push the ship to its limit with the dragon right behind them. They reach the dam just before the dragon can attack. Mans orders the dam gates to open, letting the ship escape and trapping the dragon between the massive doors. They detonate the missiles, blowing the dragon apart, but in a cruel twist, one of its teeth flies into Mans and fatally pierces him. Back at the college, students nervously wait for news until the principal appears on screen, announcing that the situation is resolved and the artifact has been safely recovered. He gives special thanks to Lu Mingfei for cracking the map, and the students break into applause before being sent back to their dorms. On his way back, Chu Jihong approaches Mingfei and invites him to join the Lionheart Society, and eventually take his place as president. He tells Mingfei that he thinks Mingfei is the only good choice for the role, but says he will not be upset if Mingfei decides to join the student union instead. Their conversation ends when the school bells suddenly begin to ring, and Jihong explains their meaning. The bells and the release of white doves signal a death, marking a period of mourning. Everyone gathers and silently pays their respects. In his final moments, the principal begs Professor Mons to hold on, but Mons calmly says there is no use. He reports everything he discovered about the dragon and the ancient city, and asks that the students be told he went on a new mission instead of learning about his death. The principal informs him that the dragon base they found has already been transported to the school for research. With his last breath, Mons requests that they find Nono a new mentor. Later, Lu Mingfei receives an email invitation to Caesar's dance party because Caesar wants to talk to him. When Mingfei asks Finger who Caesar really is, Finger explains that Caesar is the heir of a powerful and wealthy family with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Even though Mingfei is nervous about going since he has no suit and cannot dance, Finger encourages him to attend anyway and suggests borrowing a tuxedo from the drama club. At the ball, Finger and Mingfei realize they are among the few people there without dates. Nono makes a stunning entrance, walking through falling rose petals while Caesar personally welcomes her. Caesar opens the event by announcing that the party is actually to celebrate Nono's birthday, and he encourages everyone to wish her well. Once the dancing starts, Finger drags Mingfei onto the floor, but while Finger dances confidently, Mingfei struggles terribly. Meanwhile, Nono quietly asks Caesar to go easy on Mingfei so he does not end up joining the Lionheart Society. Caesar replies that while Jihong probably expects him to recruit Mingfei directly, he plans to handle things differently. He stops the music and gives a speech to everyone about the importance of excellence and loyalty. When he asks who they will fight for, the entire crowd shouts his name. After the applause, Caesar takes the chance to publicly invite Lu Mingfei to join the student union. Mingfei asks for some time to think about it. Caesar then encourages him to pick a song and dance. The blonde girl from the 3E test sets her violin aside and offers to partner with him. She chooses a song and helps Mingfei through the dance, introducing herself as Zero while he slowly gets the hang of it. Their dance earns applause, and afterward, Mingfei steps outside to get some fresh air. Nono spots him and waves him over. After he wishes her a happy birthday, she explains that she disappeared from the party because she was tired and needed a walk. She asks Mingfei to drive her to the mountaintop to relax, and he agrees. Meanwhile, the celebration inside is cut short when Caesar and the others get an alert from Norma about a possible Dragon Raja attack on the school. Even though Norma activates the defense system, the intruders still manage to break through the gate. She informs the professors that 13 outsiders have managed to infiltrate the school. Professor Manstein identifies their goal as the Dragon Vase, which the principal recently brought back and had secured in the Alfheim Institute on campus. Because they are short on staff, Norma tells them they will have to depend on the students to defend the school. She reports that Caesar and Ji Hung have been assigned to protect key areas. Students load up with Frigga bullets under Norma's guidance, while Caesar's team prepares to face the intruders. During the car ride up the mountain, Lu Mingfei falls into another trance and panics at the thought of crashing while unconscious, but Lu Mingzi calmly helps guide him. Mingzi teases him about Nono, saying that her asking him to the mountain probably means something romantic. When Mingfei brushes it off, saying Nono already likes Caesar and is older anyway, Mingze tells him that Nono does not love anyone. He then offers a cheat code called "Show me the flowers" for help later. They eventually arrive and get out of the car. Back at the school, one of the intruders reports to their employer that only 6 of them are still free, while the rest have been captured. Their employer reminds them their mission is to steal the Dragon Vase from the Alfheim Institute. Norma updates the professors, telling them some invaders have been caught while others are still loose. When someone suggests using Void Snake abilities to track them, Professor Manstein explains the school's protective barrier needs to be lowered first. He calls his father, who agrees to remove it as an early birthday present. As Manstein confirms this, Nono and Lu Mingfei sit together beside a pond on the mountaintop. When Mingfei tries to console her about Yexing and Aki, Nono says she has already accepted their loss, but then reveals Professor Mons also died. She explains the new mission, story is fake to keep students calm, and says Mons once told her this would be how she would know he was gone. Nono reflects on death and says that if she ever dies, she hopes they will say she went on a mission to Iceland so everyone can slowly accept it. She then changes the topic to fireflies and tells an ancient myth about souls being guided up a waterfall by fireflies who help them return home. Meanwhile at school, once the barrier drops, the invading captain uses her Yanling shadow field to make her team invisible as they advance toward Caesar's position in Valhalla. Professor Manstein releases his Void Snakes to hunt down the intruders across campus. Professor Guderian mentions that since many key staff members are gone, the school will have to depend on students to fight. When asked about unprotected areas, another professor confidently explains that 10,000-volt security systems make certain places completely secure. One intruder, known as 13, moves independently as ordered and sneaks into the wine cellar through a chimney. Inside the strangely abandoned cellar, he finds a locked door and opens it using his master key card. At Valhalla, Caesar activates his Yanling Kamaitachi and detects invisible enemies heading toward the church. He contacts Ji Hung and suggests making it a competition to see who beats their enemies first, but Ji Hung is not interested. Meanwhile, Norma orders the evacuation of the library where Ji Hung is stationed. Although his assistant hesitates to leave, she eventually goes after hearing confirmation and his explanation. Inside the church, the intruders are exposed when their leader's phone rings. She introduces herself as Sakatoku Mai and says she is Aki's younger sister. When Caesar offers sympathy, she coldly says she never cared about her sister and criticizes her for joining the school. She starts a musical countdown to the fight, but Caesar notices the music cutting off early and quickly takes out her teammates. She then reveals this was all a distraction. Her goal was simply to keep Caesar busy while the deadpan girl fought Ji Hung at the library, because their plan is to target the school's 2 strongest defenders, known as the Armrest Duo. At the library, the masked deadpan girl confronts Ji Hung. The professors watching via monitor worry because she has no visible weapon. Professor Guderian discovers that Ji Hung's Yanling is top secret information known only to the highest level of administration. When Ji Hang activates his Royal Blaze, a rare and terrifying power that engulfs the entire area in flames, Guderian immediately understands why they had to evacuate everyone. To everyone's shock, the deadpan girl reveals that she has the same power and prepares to fight. Elsewhere, 13 runs into Ava, one of Norma's AI personalities, in a restricted area. Eva explains that the underwater route to the Alfheim Institute has not been used in 35 years, but admits she cannot stop him because his card gives him clearance. During their short exchange, 13 learns his payment has been raised to 5 million. Overexcited, he slips, falls into a reservoir, and loses his phone before receiving further instructions. As he continues underwater and reaches a door, he feels an eerie presence, but still opens it when he hears a voice calling him brother. On the mountain, Nono apologizes for Caesar's actions, explaining he only wanted Mingfei to act like an S-rank student. She admits she was actually the one who sent the dance invitation, not Caesar. After teasing him about his dance partner, she surprises him by asking him to join the student union. To prove Caesar is not manipulating her, she tells Mingfei she personally wants him in the student union so she can take care of him as a junior. She then reveals that her engagement to Caesar is just a political arrangement between their families. When he asks why she did not help him during his embarrassing dance, she says Caesar stopped her. She jokes that if he really wants to protect her, he should give her gifts. The mood shifts as she mentions receiving a birthday gift every year from someone mysterious. Remembering the cheat code, Mingfei activates Show Me the Flowers, which makes the car stereo play music and launches fireworks spelling Happy Birthday Nono in the sky. The moment leaves Nono in tears, and Mingfei realizes she was talking about her late mother's tradition of birthday gifts. Deeply moved, Mingfei promises to be her little brother, and Nono happily promises she will always take care of him. Meanwhile, at the school, 13 is pulled by strong water currents into a chamber after opening the mysterious door. He comes face to face with a shark but remains unharmed, explaining that animals usually avoid him for some strange reason, which works out great right now. He manages to make his way to the Underwater Research Institute beneath the college and uses his keycard to get inside. Inside the institute, researchers gather around the dragon base, which is kept in liquid nitrogen and surrounded by tight security. The principal talks about their rare chance to study Dragon King Norton, but when the researchers excitedly suggest dissecting it immediately, he stops them, warning that they have no idea what hidden dangers might still exist inside. He explains the steps they've taken to keep the dragon embryo dormant, and reveals that the crack in the vase came from Professor Mann's coating it with mercury. Norma's MRI scan shows 2 embryo chambers, but one of them is mysteriously empty. When the head researcher insists on cutting open the vase anyway, the principal pulls a knife on him, orders an evacuation, and warns that if Dragon King Norton wakes up, the consequences would be disastrous. Taking advantage of the chaos, 13 slips inside easily. However, when he tries to steal the vase, he starts seeing disturbing visions of a woman calling him brother. The visions keep repeating as he takes photos, making him panic and run, accidentally dropping a bottle from his pocket. He has no idea that his final instructions to pour the solution from that bottle onto the vase and extract its contents were on the phone he lost earlier in the reservoir. Soon after, a mysterious man arrives, picks up the dropped bottle and approaches the vase. He pours the solution over it, then adds his own blood. As power surges from the vase, he declares that both his blood and the dragon now belong to Nidhogg. Back in the church, Caesar and Sakatoku Mai's fight grows more intense as Caesar keeps blocking her attacks. He then proposes a challenge. If she can land a hit on him in 3 tries, she wins. Her first attempt fails against his defenses, and although she praises his Yanling, her second try, which uses a hairpin to create a clone of herself, also fails when Caesar sees through the trick. Even after she makes her 3rd strike more complicated, Caesar's ability still overpowers her. Breaking the rules, Mai pulls out a gun, but before she can fire, a distant child's whisper triggers an explosion inside the church, forcing them to stop fighting. Caesar calls it a draw, but Mai disagrees. They both turn their attention to strange evidence left behind, melted footprints on the floor, and a hole burned straight through the wall. Mai notes that the heat matches the temperature of the sun. Caesar worries that his Yanling was unable to detect whoever caused this, but he mentions he at least heard the elevator rising from the basement. As Mai wonders what kind of monster could cause such devastation, Caesar reaches a chilling conclusion. His Kamaitachi could not sense the intruder because they had no heartbeat. Meanwhile, on the mountain, Lu Mingfei is confused about how the car managed to start on its own, but Nono ignores it and suggests they head back. During the drive, she checks Caesar's voicemail and learns about the invasion at school. She calms the panicking Mingfei by assuring him that Caesar and Chu Zihang will handle everything before they arrive. At the school, the professors watch the brutal fight between Zihang and the deadpan girl, noting that they seem evenly matched. One professor points out that the masked girl actually has better control of her power than Zihang, and appears to be deliberately dragging out the battle instead of trying to beat him quickly. Meanwhile, 13 tries to escape on a bicycle. Professor Gadarian spots him on camera and orders students to open fire. Even with bullets flying, 13 dodges everything, until Lu Mingfei crashes into him by accident. Mingfei apologizes, and 13 threatens him with a knife, but everything changes when they recognize each other. 13 is actually Old Tang, Mingfei's old friend. Old Tang explains that he had no idea the school Mingfei once described was actually Castle College. They quickly fake a hostage situation to help Old Tang escape. Their plan is suddenly interrupted when a mysterious boy surrounded by flames and a glowing shield lands on their car and calls out, "Brother." The heat is so intense they cannot turn around, but they catch a glimpse of him in the mirror before Mingfei speeds off. The professor orders guards and students to attack the boy from a distance using long-range bullets and warns them not to get close. But the child's energy shield melts every bullet instantly. They switch to grenades, but those do nothing either and only make him angrier. Enraged, the child unleashes Royal Blaze, causing a massive explosion that wipes out everything nearby. The blast stops the fight between Zihang and the deadpan girl. Realizing this new threat is far worse, they immediately stop fighting. After receiving an update, Zihang listens as the deadpan girl explains that the child was accidentally released. She begs him to trust her, and he agrees. Desperate, Professor Manstein calls his father and asks him to reactivate the barrier to suppress the boy's Yanling. His father delivers terrible news. The barrier will not work on him. He explains that the boy is one of the first-generation dragons, specifically the Dragon King of Bronze and Fire, meaning his power is far beyond what their defenses can handle. Mai reports the Dragon Boy's rampage to her employer, who reacts in shock at the mention of his furnace-like fire and energy shield, wondering how he could have been released. After Zihang confirms it and Mai sends video proof, the employer makes an important identification. The boy is not Dragon King Norton. He is Norton's brother, Constantine. She promises to find a way to contain him. Meanwhile, Constantine wanders around the campus, repeatedly calling out for his brother. while Mingfei worries about whether they are safe. When Nono asks what Old Tang actually does for work, he says he is a hunter, and Nono explains that his organization hunts down mysterious artifacts, not animals. Old Tang explains how he joined this group online and took on the vase theft mission without realizing it involved Mingfei's school. When he shows Mingfei a picture of the vase, they notice the crack and quickly figure out that Constantine must have come out of it. Watching Constantine's behavior, Nono suspects he is specifically searching for one of them. Their hiding spot gets blown when Finger stumbles upon them, screams, and immediately draws Constantine's attention. As Finger complains that Mingfei dragged him to the dance and into this disaster, Constantine approaches and forces them to run. Caesar and Mai encounter the fleeing group, and Caesar's first instinct is to check on Nono. He tells her to go to the swimming pool with the others, and although she refuses at first, she finally agrees when he explains her presence would distract him in battle. Mai declares that she is staying to stop the Dragon Boy and protect her team. Her employer calls at the perfect time with critical intel. Non-metal frigga bullets can push Constantine back, even if they cannot kill him. With this new info, Caesar and Mai reload their weapons and share the update with the professors. Their shots work, and soon other guards and students switch to the same ammo and join the fight. Meanwhile, Lu Mingfei, Old Tang, and Finger reach the pool and, for a brief moment, completely forget the danger and start playing in the water. The sound of footsteps snaps them back to reality, and they immediately duck underwater to hide. Suddenly, Lu Mingfei finds himself somewhere else. The pool turns red and begins steaming. When he reaches the shore, he assumes he has slipped into one of Mingfei's visions and starts searching for him. Instead, Constantine appears, and Mingfei feels an odd familiarity in the boy's face. In the vision, Constantine walks right up to him, sniffing him curiously. As Mingfei notices how intensely hot he feels, the scenery changes and reveals a pyramid. He realizes he is in the Bronze and Fire City, and that Constantine is the same boy hunting them at school. Mingfei suddenly appears, kicks Constantine away, and tells him to leave his brother alone and look for his own. Mingfei then wakes up beside the school pool, confused and alone. The principal appears and leads him to an Overwatch tower, explaining that they have cornered the Dragon Boy. He shows Mingfei a rare alchemic bullet that can kill a Dragon King and tells him to shoot Constantine in the eye once he breaks through his defenses. Just like when Mingfei shot Zihang and Caesar, the principal explains that his Yanling ×0 will slow time and give Mingfei a perfect chance to fire, then he leaves after encouraging him. Meanwhile, Old Tang grows nervous as Finger confronts him for abandoning them in the pool, while Finger hears Constantine calling him brother. Things escalate when Constantine fully transforms into his true dragon form. The principal thanks the students for their efforts before taking control. He activates ×0, smashes through Constantine's shield, exposes the rolling eye, and calls out for Mingfei to shoot. As Mingfei hesitates, Mingze appears behind him and helps steady his aim. After the shot is fired, the principal orders everyone to switch to live ammunition. In a sudden twist, the dragon flies toward Old Tang and uses his body to shield him from the gunfire. With his last breath, the dragon calls Old Tang brother before dying. Shaken and terrified, Old Tang runs, but memories suddenly overwhelm him. He remembers his past with Constantine, their promise to protect each other, and their dream of ruling the world together. He stops as everything crashes into him. He is not just Old Tang. He is Norton, Constantine's twin brother and the Dragon King. His pain and fury explode, triggering his transformation. Later, Manstein's father and the principal discuss Norton's awakening. When asked why he allowed Norton to transform instead of killing him, the principal reveals an ancient truth. Humans have never actually killed dragons, they only seal them. He explains that dragons can regrow from any surviving part, meaning sealing is the only real solution. The principal also reveals that his hybrid blood has kept him alive for over 100 years, and that he needs someone to continue his mission. His true goal is to wipe out dragons completely, and he plans to use Norton's uncontrollable rage as a weapon. Even though Manstein's father worries about human casualties, the principal believes Norton's anger will ultimately destroy him, and he intends to take down not only the 4 Dragon Kings, but Nidhogg too. The next day, Lu Mingfei and Finger talk about what happened, and Finger mentions that executives have returned and security systems are being upgraded. He also explains the origins of the secret society. When Finger asks which group Mingfei chose to join, Mingfei says he picked the student union because of Nono. To Mingfei's surprise, Finger casually reveals he is already a member. They are interrupted by a knock at the door, and Mingfei finds a grumpy old man delivering his student union ID card. The man explains that Nono was so sure about Mingfei's choice that the card was prepared in advance. He also tells Mingfei that Caesar has called for a meeting in an hour. Meanwhile, the principal meets with Caesar, thanks him for helping contain the Dragon King, and assigns a new mission. He asks the student union to lead an expedition into the Bronze City and specifically requests Lu Mingfei because he might be important to the mission. Caesar accepts gratefully. After receiving the mission, Caesar calls Mingfei to his office to discuss the upcoming expedition. Mingfei, terrified by the low survival rate, desperately tries to avoid going by making up excuses. When Caesar mentions that there are not enough executive-level members available, Ming-Fei immediately starts arguing back using math logic to explain why he should not go. Caesar then drops an important reveal. Being chosen as a freshman is actually a huge honor. He explains that out of all the first-year students, only Ming-Fei and Zero were selected, and Zero has already agreed. Annoyed by Ming-Fei constantly dodging responsibility, Caesar threatens to take away his student union ID if he refuses the mission. Right then, Nono steps in and promises that she will personally look after him like a caring older sister. Still scared but moved by her support, Ming-Fei finally agrees, and Caesar announces that they now have 2 months to prepare him. Those next 2 months turn into brutal training for Ming-Fei. He learns diving, martial arts, endurance training, close combat, stamina drills, shooting, and countless survival techniques. As the day of the expedition arrives, a very nervous Ming-Fei gets dressed in his gear. Finger notices how scared he is and tries to cheer him up. During their talk, Finger mentions something interesting. Couples are not allowed to dive together, which is how Ye Sheng and Aki were able to do it only because they secretly hid their relationship. This makes Ming-Fei realize Caesar and Nono will not be allowed to dive as a pair on this mission. Opening up, Ming-Fei admits how terrified he is of never coming back alive. He hands Finger his credit card and tells him to buy whatever he wants if he dies. In true Finger fashion, he immediately starts ordering tons of food, leaving Ming-Fei shocked by how fast he spends. But Finger returns the card soon after and gives him real encouragement, telling him he believes Ming-Fei will make it back safely. This surprisingly sincere support gives Ming-Fei a burst of courage. Caesar begins preparations by summoning one of his servant dragons. Operation Bronze officially begins, and Lu Ming-Fei, Zero, Nono, and Caesar board their ship. Professor Manstein briefs them on their powerful arsenal and reassures everyone that running into dragons is unlikely. He proudly shows off their upgraded defenses, including a new advanced torpedo that can supposedly kill any dragon. Their main mission is simple but terrifying. They need to sneak into Bronze City and destroy it before Norton can claim it. When Ming-Fei asks why they need to destroy such a valuable place, Manstein explains that technology just is not advanced enough to raise the entire city to the surface. He also explains that Norton will probably return to the city to go into a cocoon state, which he needs to fully regain his power. Manstein then explains the diving plan. Nono will dive with Ming-Fei, while Caesar dives with Zero. The original plan is for Caesar and Zero to go first and destroy the cocoon, but Zero suddenly refuses to dive, claiming she is on her period. Even when Ming-Fei insists it should not matter, she refuses to budge. To Ming-Fei's horror, that means he and Nono have to go instead. As they suit up, Nono carefully explains their diving suits, especially the consciousness line, which can pull them back if they pass out. When Ming-Fei worries about seeing dragons, Manstein reassures him. He explains that dragons are currently in their sleeping phase. He also explains that Norton escaped years ago while in human form, and he cannot regain his real dragon strength unless he goes into his cocoon. That makes running into him now very unlikely. With the ship crew monitoring everything, Ming-Fei and Nono begin their descent. When they finally reach the ancient gate, Ming-Fei follows instructions and pours pure blood into the container at the gate's edge. Suddenly, the gate clamps down and bites his hand. It releases once it tastes enough dragon blood, but Ming-Fei screams in panic until Nono rushes over. Through his tears, she calmly explains it is just a small bite. He finally looks at his hand and realizes she is right. Following Nono's advice, he wraps it in cloth, though he dramatically uses far more than necessary. The gate then opens and a powerful current drags them into the city. Nono briefly loses consciousness but wakes up inside the mysterious city with Ming-Fei. She checks with Norma about the air, and Norma confirms it is safe to breathe. To conserve oxygen, Nono tells Ming-Fei to take off his breathing gear. They check in with Professor Manstein from an unfamiliar hallway. Norma confirms that Norton's return has reactivated the city's systems, explaining why air is available. When Nono asks where to place the bombs, Manstein tells them to locate the Dragon King's palace. To move through the confusing city, he instructs Ming-Fei to pour a special dye and follow where the water carries it. As they follow it, Ming-Fei's fear becomes impossible to hide. He nervously complains about all the creepy statues around them, earning him a playful insult from Nono, calling him a coward. Seizing the moment, Nono explains the dark story behind the statues. She tells Ming-Fei about a tribe that once came to Bronze City with sacrifices of crops, animals, and even a beautiful girl, hoping to awaken the Dragon King. But Norton was not satisfied with any of it and never showed up. Their journey eventually leads them to the point where the dye stops flowing, the same pillar Ye Sheng and Aki once reached. Moving forward, they come across a massive statue dedicated to Norton. Excited to finish the mission, Ming-Fei immediately suggests dropping the bomb there. However, Nono quickly realizes something is wrong. She reasons that the Dragon King's real palace would not be in the same place where sacrifices were once delivered. Thinking fast, she tricks Ming-Fei into putting on his oxygen mask and then suddenly pushes him into the water. When Professor Manstein asks for an update, Nono reports poor visibility. Without warning, they are pulled into another part of the underwater city, a haunting area filled with the skeletons of fallen warriors who once challenged Norton before the city sank. Taking advantage of the location, Nono asks Mingfei for his injured hand, unwraps it, and uses his blood to open a hidden gate beneath them. The gate activates and drags them into yet another section of the city, but at a huge cost. They lose both communication with the ship and their consciousness line. Above the surface, Professor Manstein and Caesar immediately activate their Yanling abilities to locate them. Mingfei and Nono end up in an unexplored district and find a shabby old house, deciding to go inside. Mingfei panics when he hears they lost their consciousness line, but Nono reassures him they can reconnect once they leave the area. Suddenly, Nono has a vision and positions Mingfei across from her, preparing to use her criminal psychology skills. She warns him to stay completely silent while she is in her psychic state. Through her vision, she discovers the house's past. It was once Norton and Constantine's original palace, full of shared memories. Mingfei is stunned by how incredible her psychic ability is, and she admits that she profiled him too when he first joined the school. She then confesses that her protective attitude comes from guilt, because she originally thought he would quit shortly after arriving. After calculating their remaining time, Nono sets the bomb for 45 minutes. But things take a terrifying turn when they notice a recently lit lamp, proof that Norton is still in the city. Realizing how dangerous that is, they immediately run. When they try to retrace their steps, they discover their consciousness line is gone, clearly stolen. As the city starts to collapse, they understand their only way out is back the way they came. They dive downward and find another gate. Before continuing, they share a heartfelt moment. Mingfei admits he did not leave a final message because he truly believes he will survive. Nono quietly reveals that she did not leave one either because she feels nobody would really miss her if she died. When Mingfei brings up Caesar, she brushes it off, saying he would simply move on. With their fears laid bare, Mingfei uses his blood to activate the gate. Meanwhile, on the ship, tension grows as Manstein calculates how long they have been gone and grimly concludes their survival chances are extremely low. Caesar finally snaps and insists on diving to rescue them, but Manstein firmly reminds him that their primary mission is to eliminate the Dragon King and that acting emotionally could ruin everything. Underground, things get worse for Nono and Mingfei when they reach what seems like a dead end. Nono admits that only a miracle can save them now because they have no ship contact and no help from Norma. Just when all hope seems lost, Mingfei remembers the cheat code Lu Ming's gave him for the city map. When he activates it, Ming's voice answers, relieved that they finally called him. Then, in an unbelievable twist, Finger's voice appears in Mingfei's mind. Thinking fast, Mingfei begs Finger to look at the Bronze City map so he can guide them out. But on the ship, something shocking happens. Professor Manstein grabs his head in pain, realizing Mingfei is using his brain as a communication relay between himself and Finger. Time is running out, and Finger struggles with the map because his access level is too low. As Caesar begs him to hurry and Manstein's condition worsens, Finger suddenly remembers Eva. Eva, one of Norma's AI personalities, promises to bring their friend home and unlocks full access for him. With unrestricted control, Finger finally decodes the map and starts guiding Mingfei and Nono to safety. Meanwhile, Zero delivers alarming news to Caesar. The ocean temperature has spiked to 50 degrees, likely because the Dragon King is heating the water to hunt more easily. With Manstein now incapacitated, Zero tells Caesar he needs to take command because he knows the student union crew better than anyone. Caesar steps up, takes control, and begins giving orders. Suddenly, disaster strikes as a dragon attacks the lower deck and destroys the torpedo bay. At first, they assume it is Norton, but sonar cannot lock onto it as it chases the ship. During the intense pursuit, Zero realizes something critical. Their attacker is not Norton. It is his servant dragon, Samson. The situation takes an unexpected turn when the crew spots Norton standing on a distant hill. Following Caesar's order to stop the ship, they watch an unbelievable scene unfold. Samson suddenly abandons the chase and swims over to Norton, who jumps into the water to meet him. What happens next shocks everyone. After briefly thanking Samson for his service, Norton suddenly strikes and kills his own loyal dragon servant. Before anyone can make sense of it, a massive surge of energy erupts from the sea, causing a huge explosion. When the blast clears, Norton emerges in a terrifying new form, now fused with Samson's body. The crew realizes Norton has found a shortcut, skipping the need for a cocoon transformation in the Bronze City. Watching from afar through her sniper scope, Maya understands what Norton has done and how much time this fusion saves him. She receives orders that Norton must be eliminated, but Lu Mingfei's safety is the top priority. Meanwhile, underwater, Nono and Mingfei race desperately through the collapsing city, following Finger's directions to escape before they are buried forever. Their escape turns emotional when they come across Ye Shang's body, still holding the book meant for the ship. His missing oxygen mask makes it clear he sacrificed his own heir to save Aki. Even with Finger shouting for them to hurry, Nono pauses to quietly wish Ye Shang eternal rest before they move on. As they continue swimming, the path seems endless, and Mingfei's confidence collapses. He admits his fear of dying and begins doubting whether Finger's guidance is even right, and Nono also begins to worry. At that moment, Mingfei has a powerful vision. His inner self appears and harshly scolds him for always depending on others to save him instead of saving himself. The tough reality check works, and Mingfei feels a new determination to survive on his own strength. When they finally reach the exit gate, they face their last obstacle. It requires pure dragon blood to open. Mingfei tries to cut his hand with a knife, but nothing works, and a massive stone slab starts descending to crush them. Nono struggles to hold it back and screams for him to hurry. Thinking fast, Mingfei rips off his gas mask and bites his own finger to spill blood. It works. The gate opens and blasts them out of the city, but Mingfei passes out. Back on the ship, even while barely conscious, Professor Manstein manages to warn everyone about Mingfei and Nono's dangerously low oxygen. Caesar, focused on surviving Norton, orders the ship to move, forcing Norton to chase them. The crew launches a rescue bell into the ocean. While unconscious, Mingfei hears echoes of people insulting him until Nono slaps him awake. She explains the grim situation. He lost all his oxygen when he removed his mask, so they are now sharing her half tank. They need to reach the ship fast, but oxygen is running out. Right when things seem hopeless, help finally arrives. Chu Zihang shows up in a helicopter and radios Caesar's crew, saying he is here to help. In a selfless move, Nono removes her diving suit and gives it to Mingfei, trusting her elite diving skills to survive without it. Their escape becomes even more dangerous when an explosion releases poison gas into the water, leaving Mingfei desperately hoping Nono will be okay. Above water, tension rises as Caesar's team scrambles for a plan. When Chu Zihang offers backup, Caesar responds coldly, which earns criticism from Zero, who argues they need the help. Caesar explains why he is hesitant. Chu Zihang's fire-based Yanling is useless against Norton, which is like trying to fight fire with fire. Things get worse when the pilot reports serious engine failure, meaning the ship cannot take off. Their only hope of staying afloat is the watertight compartment, but Caesar finds hope when he hears they still have torpedoes. A new plan forms. They will modify the torpedoes for maximum power against Norton. Zero explains the strategy. They need to get within 100 meters of Norton so he cannot deflect the torpedo. Once launched, its jet-like speed should deal fatal damage. Caesar volunteers to distract Norton using his Yanling so Zero can get a clean shot. Before leaving, Zero gives an important warning. The torpedo launch is as loud as a space shuttle, and combined with his heightened senses, it could destroy Caesar's eardrums. Caesar accepts the risk, covers his eyes to boost his hearing, and activates his Yanling while Zero prepares the torpedo bay. Caesar begins the plan by repeatedly shooting at Norton, who easily deflects every shot. This is exactly what Zero wanted. The more Norton gets angry, the less he will notice the real attack. As Zero heads to the torpedo compartment, she emphasizes that an enraged Norton focusing only on Caesar is the perfect opportunity. The ship continues to close in, and the battle grows even more intense. Caesar briefly lowers his defensive barrier, giving Chu Zihang an opening to unleash his Royal Blaze attack. However, Norton matches the attack with equal force, causing a massive surge of energy and a huge explosion. The blast creates a blinding flash that leaves everyone temporarily sightless except Caesar, who takes advantage of the moment, removes his blindfold, and orders Zero to launch the torpedo. In the rush of the moment, Caesar forgets Zero's urgent warning about protecting his ears. The torpedo hits its mark perfectly, slamming straight into Norton's chest. Completely caught off guard, the Dragon King loses consciousness and falls into the sea. As Chu Zihang reports that he is pulling out because his helicopter is damaged, the immediate threat appears to be over. Their victory does not come without consequences. Caesar's ears start bleeding from the deafening force of the torpedo launch. Zero approaches him, and they begin communicating through sign language. She reassures him that the damage can be fixed with a small surgery, and despite everything, Caesar still cracks jokes, saying communication will not be a problem because they both know sign language. They share a heartfelt moment as they reveal why they learned it in the first place. Caesar learned it for his hearing-impaired mother, while Zero learned it to cope with loneliness. They high-five in celebration, relieved but still worried about Nono and Lu Mingfei, hoping they find the diving bell in time. Underwater, Nono finally spots the diving bell and, even after holding her breath impressively long, signals Mingfei to share the respirator. After taking a life-saving breath, they swim toward their escape. Mingfei feels huge relief, certain they are finally safe. Nono quickly verifies her fingerprint on the bell panel and opens the hatch, pushing Mingfei safely inside. But in a horrifying twist, just as she is about to climb in, Norton suddenly reappears and brutally impales her. Mingfei can only watch in shock, totally frozen and helpless. In her final act of strength and kindness, Nono uses the last of her energy to seal the diving bell, guaranteeing Mingfei's survival even as she dies outside. Inside the bell, Mingfei is overwhelmed by memories of every moment he shared with her. He feels the crushing pain of realizing that someone who became such a vital part of his life is gone forever. The grief hits even harder because he is alive only because she sacrificed herself, and he is trapped watching the tragedy happen from behind the barrier she locked him inside. In his grief, Mingfei suddenly finds himself in a strange vision, lying on a raft in an otherworldly place. Lu Mingzhe's voice reaches him, saying he appeared because Mingfei's sorrow summoned him. Although Mingfei rejects him at first, Mingzhe's hint that he might be able to save Nono immediately grabs his attention. Before helping, Mingze asks why Mingfei chose Castle College in such a dangerous life in the first place. Mingfei opens up about his insecurity, how he tried to look impressive for his parents while secretly feeling useless and dependent on others. When he speaks about how important Nono is to him, Mingze coldly says Nono only helped him out of pity, which breaks Mingfei even more as he begs for a way to save her. Mingze then offers a dark deal. He will help save Nono and defeat Norton, but Mingfei must give him his soul. Every time Mingfei uses a cheat code, it will cost him 1/4 of his life. After 4 uses, Mingze will own him completely. Without hesitating, Mingfei agrees. Even Mingze is surprised, saying Nono has blinded him with emotion and led him straight into the trap. He grants Mingfei Yanling powers and sends him back. Back in reality, Mingfei immediately heals Nono, secures her in the diving bell with an oxygen mask, and sends her safely toward the surface. Above water, Caesar receives the signal that the diving bell is rising. Relief washes over him as he orders her rescue and prepares medical help. This moment marks both their salvation and Mingfei's doom. Nano is saved, but Mingfei has traded his soul, and he accepts that price without regret. With Nano safe, Mingze prepares Mingfei for his showdown with Norton. When Mingfei doubts whether his powers are enough, Mingze reveals a crucial secret. The key to defeating Norton lies in the box recovered from Ye Sheng's body. Inside are 7 deadly weapons that Norton himself created. Before the fight, Mingze instructs Mingfei to use one of his new powers to silence Norton so he cannot use words to activate his abilities. Once Norton is silenced, Mingfei summons the ancient box and activates its contents. Out of the 7 options, he picks 2 weapons, 1 purple and 1 yellow. Mingze is unimpressed and tells him he picked the weakest ones, but they will have to do. Fueled by rage, Mingfei charges Norton, and the weapons transform into their true forms. His first attack works, slicing part of Norton's mouth. But a problem appears fast. Mingfei cannot fight well underwater, and he struggles with stability. Seeing this, Mingze steps in and uses his power to give Mingfei proper footing and movement underwater. With full mobility and burning determination, Mingfei keeps attacking the Dragon King, fighting fiercely with the very weapons Norton once created. In the middle of an intense fight between Dragon King Norton and Lu Mingfei, the entire ship suddenly shakes, shocking everyone who thought Norton was already dead. Feeling overwhelmed by Mingfei's growing strength, Norton retreats into the dark depths to rethink his next move. A wave of sadness hits Mingfei as he starts thinking about the people who would mourn him if he died. At that moment, Mingze pulls him back into the vision world for a serious talk. He reminds Mingfei that dragons never get tired and tells him this is his best chance to defeat Norton. When Mingfei says he is determined to keep fighting, Mingze reveals something critical. The spell blocking Norton's Yanling is fading fast. He also shares an important secret. Norton's weak point is actually the human body on top of the dragon's head. Encouraged, Mingfei activates his Yanling and boosts his power. At first, the heightened senses overwhelm him, but then Mingze adds his own Yanling to help guide him, allowing Mingfei to locate Norton's hiding place. Mingfei attacks with everything he has, cutting through Norton's form. When that does not work, he goes straight for the human body on the dragon's head, but he suddenly stops. He realizes that body belongs to Old Tang. His close friend Norton takes advantage of this hesitation, grabs Mingfei by the throat, and tries to strangle him. Seeing Mingfei's hesitation, Mingze intervenes and gives him a deadly dagger. Mingfei stabs Norton. As he floats upward, he watches Norton slowly turn to stone. Memories of Old Tang flood back, reminding Mingfei of all the times he was there for him during his worst moments. Mingfei cries uncontrollably as he rises toward the surface. On the ship, everyone crowds around Nono anxiously. The doctor reassures Caesar, saying all her vital signs are stable. When Nono finally wakes up, everyone cheers in relief. Zero notices Mingfei is still missing, spots him in the distance, and swims out to bring him back. Meanwhile, Mai, who has been waiting to finish her mission, reports to her employer that Mingfei is alive as planned. She then spots Norton, now weakened and made of stone, trying to escape. Without hesitating, she takes aim with her rifle loaded with a special alchemic bullet and takes him out with one clean shot. She reports her success and discards the rifle. Back on the ship, Zero receives word that Chu Zihong has safely made it to the nearest airport and is recovering. Later, during tea with the principal, Mingfei is praised for achieving perfect scores in both written and practical exams, something extremely rare in school history. However, the principal explains that Mingfei still needs to complete a thesis and suggests he write about the twin Dragon Kings created by Nidhogg. He reveals that Nidhogg created 4 pairs of twin Dragon Kings, 8 in total, who take human form to understand human emotions. The principal shows Mingfei a photo of a younger Old Tang with friends and explains that Old Tang was actually a Dragon King who chose a quiet life after his adoptive parents died, even using his wealth to help orphanages. He comforts Mingfei, explaining that even if Constantine had survived, Old Tang would eventually have awakened as Dragon King Norton and brought destruction anyway. When Mingfei asks why dragons are kept secret from the world, the principal says revealing them would destroy social stability and completely change how people view reality. Mingfei later receives a letter from his parents, proudly praising his success and sharing their excitement for his future graduation at 22, leaving him deeply moved. The principal then asks about their encounter with Norton and is especially curious about Nono's miraculous survival. Remembering Mingfei's warning, Mingfei stays quiet about the truth, and the principal respectfully accepts it. Back at the dorm, Mingfei confronts Finger for posting news about him on the school site. Their argument gets interrupted when Caesar shows up asking for salt for his cooking. Finger updates Mingfei about the new living arrangements. Caesar and Chu Zihang are now roommates across the hall, while Nono and Zihang's assistant have moved next door. Nono drops by, gives Mingfei chocolate, and Finger immediately runs off to claim his share. She thanks Mingfei for saving her underwater, saying his promise to protect her helped her wake up, although she does not remember everything that happened. Soon after, Mingfei receives a package containing a phone, a gift from Mingzhe, so they can communicate more easily, and so Mingfei will not rely on the vision world. In the final scene, the principal reviews Mingfei's 3E test papers and discovers a drawing showing Mingfei sitting by a window with Mingzhe. Recognizing Mingzhe, the principal quietly burns the drawing before officially